Oh, then you won't know anything. Okay. Okay. Chalo, start karo, then I will let me, in that case, whoever, it's already 7, huh? Please go ahead, upload whatever way. I will, at the end of this presentation, I will show you the implication of fractional flow curve. It's very simple to understand you are from fractional flow. And that's what I used to tell those summer internship, whoever used to come to me from your institute as well as from others. Please, coordinator, who Simran, please go ahead, or you think some more time is required? Please take it.
No, sir, we can start.
Please go ahead. Please.
Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to everyone present here this evening. I'm Simran Tyagi, and today I'll be speaking on behalf of SPE IIT ISM student chapter. Here are some guidelines for all the attendees. All of you must mute yourself and switch off your camera. You can type your queries in the chat box, which will be taken at the end of the session. SPE IIT ISM student chapter is elated to bring to you distinguished lecturer program on the topic In-Situ Combustion. In-Situ Combustion is a unique enhanced oil recovery process for heavy oil. The session is aimed at making ourselves acquainted with the process and also its importance in the industry. In today's lecturer program, we have with us Mr. Sidhartha Sur, alumnus at IIT ISM and an independent consultant at Oil India Limited. He has also been an advisor in ONGC from April 2018 to April 2019 and CEO at Mansarovar Energy Colombia Limited. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our guest, Mr. Sidhartha Sur. Welcome, sir.
Chalo, good evening to all of you. Now let's start with the main talk. What I intend to do, I don't want to talk at that level of SP distinguished lecturer, but I want to show you the talk. All of you can see this
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
slideshow. All of you can see this? Yes, good. So, as per the SP Distinguished Lecture Program, the primary funding is provided by the SP Foundation through member donations. And when you requested me, it's already 10 years when I became the SP DL in 2009 and 10. So this is the same presentation of 2009 and 10, which I did it to other countries like China, Thailand, Colombia, Iran, Sudan, and other places. So I modified the presentation to some extent, but I cannot change a SPDL presentation. Okay, but I understand the level you are at this moment. You are from third semester or fifth semester, but still some more time is required for you to really perceive the subject. But I will try to talk in a very layman's term for you to understand the subject in situ combustion. Okay. So all of you, please let me know you are catching up with the slides or not, please. And you can make me stop at that moment. All of you can see this?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So the subject in situ combustion, as good as it gets. Why I termed it as good as it gets? There's a Hollywood movie, of 2000, in the year, in this new millennium. Jack Nicholson starred movie by the same name, As Good as It Gets. You know, in that movie, it's a very renowned movie in the sense that Jack Nicholson used to stay alone in an apartment with his dog, and nobody used to like him in that society. Everybody felt that this guy is good for nothing, and he is a nuisance to the society. But at the end of the day, everybody realized that what a great personality he is, and what a great assistance he is to the entire mankind. So I thought that to put that name, in situ combustion, as good as it gets, to get linked to that movie. Actually, you will come to know more in the next coming slides. So this is the part of the SPDL program of 2009 and 10. The outline of this presentation, I will try to do it for 30 to 35 minutes. So, what is in situ combustion? Where are we in situ combustion? Laboratory evaluation, the field testing, the opportunities and anxieties, and the summary. What is in situ combustion? It is lighting a fire under somebody to get them moving. The common English metaphor explains the physics of this process. Like in that picture, it's like lighting a fire under somebody to get them moving. But the same physics works for underground oil recovery too. It is a method of oil recovery in which fire aided, I shouldn't say fire, it's a high temperature aided by injection of air or enriched air, is started inside a reservoir to push oil ahead to a location from which it is very easily extractable. You will see how it is done. So there is always an injector and producers. Injector is to inject the air to create the high temperature front, which is propagated radially outside, or maybe distorted front in the direction of the producers, but it is maintained, it is sustained, it is propagated with continuous injection of air. So you can see this animation, injector and producer. There are several zones to this. When you continuously inject air, the yellow portion is the burnt zone, or the zone from which all the oil, no fluid, no reservoir fluid exists. All has been displaced out ahead in the green zone, that is the banking. But what is in between, you can see the red. The red color is the high temperature zone. Is the high
Excuse
temperature?
me, sir.
Yeah, please.
So the slides aren't changing. The video is stuck.
Yeah, correct, Bolo. That was my issue actually. Because of the, see, I am at a very high network strength. But this is the problem. The animations, can you see now? Can you see
Yes,
now?
sir.
Yes, sir.
But you won't see the animation. Huh? You will miss out on the animation. Because
Yes.
unless it is in the slideshow, you won't be able to see the animations. So here it is. Let's now keep going with in this form only. Okay, you can see it, no? So you can see the different zones, the yellow, the red, and this is the issue, of online. Yeah. Unless it is animated, you cannot really appreciate the subject in a better way. So you why don't you take up this presentation material from your profs who are there? They're here, or in the last 2019 to 20, entire 2019 to 2020, till COVID came into the picture. I used to go there every 3 months and give a talk on air injection and all other UR processes. Why don't you catch up with the presentation material from your department? You'll be able to see the animations better. Okay, so here are the zones. Yellow zone is swept zone. Entire high temperature front is swept the entire reservoir fluids out into the producers. The red zone is the zone where oxidation is taking place, high temperature oxidation between the air and the fuel. The black, when you heat up oil, heavy oil, in an inert atmosphere and raise the temperature slowly to 300 degrees centigrade, the oil starts getting cracked. This is called thermal cracking. The chemical engineers would know of this. They aid it with catalytic cracking, but here is no catalytic. Here it's all thermal cracking because the high temperature of that red front heats up the oil ahead of it in an inert atmosphere. All the oxygen in the air is getting consumed at that red portion. So the zone ahead, nitrogen makes a free trip across the reservoir. It's inert. It doesn't go into any reaction. So nitrogen is moving in the entire reservoir. Oxygen is getting consumed in the red portion, which is the front. So the oil ahead gets heated up gradually, the rising temperature, and it gets cracked. And the residues, in a refinery stack, you will find it when you visit a refinery. At the bottom of the fractional tower, you will find coke, the unwanted products, the residue. And this is that stuff which gets deposited on the sand grain surfaces. So this acts as a fuel to the process. The oil which has no properties of depositing this coke cannot sustain combustion. So here is the cokified zone, that black color. Now, when the front moves ahead with continuous air injection, that black stuff acts as a fuel to the process. And the water which is present in the reservoir gets flashed into steam because of high temperature, and that is that light blue color. And then it cannot remain in the form of steam. It loses the heat to the cap rock and the base rock and becomes hot water zone, dark blue color. And all the oil which is ahead gets displaced out in the green zone in the form of a bank which resists, which gets produced from the producer. So when we are injecting air, only air, it is known as dry combustion. When we are injecting air and water, water is a very good carrier of heat, All of you know the physics part of water. So specific heat is one. So when to increase the energy efficiency of this process, water is injected in cycles to catch up with the heat which is stored in the burnt zone and create a steam zone ahead of the process to make the process more energy efficient. So that is called wet combustion. So varying water air ratio creates super wet combustion, super wet combustion, quenched combustion, and all other processes. But let's keep it in the form of understanding to dry and wet combustion at the moment. So can you see this slide? This triangle, red triangle? Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
in a candle, when you burn a candle, why you create a flame? Why a flame is created? How it is created? How it is sustained? How? Same principle is everywhere in-situ combustion too. Three things are required: oxygen, which is present in the air, 21%. The temperature can be the original temperature of the reservoir, or it can be increased artificially to the ignition point of the oil, and the fuel which is available in the oil itself. So you can see a picture of the coke, how it looks like on the sand grain surfaces. Is a black color rich in carbon. Hydrocarbon ratio is very low because it is very rich in carbon. So all the three things are necessary to sustain in-situ combustion, propagate it for propagation of the front. So if either one of them is stopped, if you stop oxygen, if you stop air injection, the entire process will get stopped. So this is how the front looks like actually. That red color front which you saw in that picture, it's a 3 centimeter, very thin front, 2 to 3 centimeter. You may ask me, how did I come to know of this? This is a temperature distribution measured in the laboratory. So from here, when we plot the at any particular time instant the temperature distribution of the process, we find The red color is a dry combustion and blue color is a wet combustion. You can see the different energy efficiency. In the dry combustion, lot of heat is stored behind the front. Front is the peak temperature, 600 degrees centigrade. That is that red color front. Okay, so you can see, and 0 is the distance from the injector, and as we move out towards the producer, that is the distance. So at the injector end, you can see a good amount of heat is stored from 0 to 200 degrees centigrade at the injection level, and it builds up to 600 degrees C at the front. So that yellow portion contains lot of heat, very big amount of heat, which remains unutilized. So to use that, we inject water, and the water, what it does, brings down the temperature, takes off the heat from the yellow zone and transfers. So this is a chemical engineering phenomena, heat and mass transfer. So it lowers the temperature near the well from 200 to 50 degrees C and transfers that heat, that difference in portion, this heat, this amount of heat. One moment. Let me see. How can I know? I can't see a pointer here. So this amount of heat is transferred ahead of the front in the form of steam zone. So this is a very good heat transfer process using water. It increases the efficiency of the process. It enhances the energy balance of the process. But one thing to be noted is the very thin front of 2 to 3 centimeter thick. So that's a very difficulty in simulating this entire process. So while we are in situ combustion, it was in the it was a theoretical efficiency is very high, thermal efficiency is very high. So people in 1950s to 1960s, 1970s, they used to think very high of this process and had a very good opinion about this process. But since 1980s and 1990s, a lot of failures took place. More failures than successes, made this process archaic. People started losing faith in this process. They felt that this is nothing, good for nothing, like Jack Nicholson in that movie, As Good as It Gets. It's archaic, it's good for nothing. Well, it is all negative disaster mentality was created about this process. But why this mixed success in the fields was because economics changed in between. Because 1990s, 2000, sometime oil price went up, sometimes came down. And when it came down, many people shut down their projects. Now, there were several operational challenges with this process. So failure to deal with operational challenges was one of the main reasons for this mixed success. Then applying this process in wrong reservoir settings. You cannot expect this process to succeed in all the reservoirs. That sort of concept didn't really work in 1990s. So failures were coming more than successes. And most importantly was the process was very poorly understood. Why? Because of less of laboratory knowledge. Hardly any people worked on the laboratory. And the world had 5 or 6 laboratories spread all over the world. So there was less of laboratory R&D and premature termination of field projects. Reasons are unknown, but some reasons were of failure to deal with operational challenges. But all these reasons led to mixed success of this process, more failures than successes, and a part of the reason of losing faith in this process. And most importantly, when we don't know a subject, the fear of the unknown creeps into our mind. Is the fear of missed opportunity or the fear of unknown. This is a very big fear which not only is in the mind of the people who don't know a subject, but it is very common in the industry who are not aware of in situ combustion. First instant, without knowing it, because it is not known, the intricacies are not known, so it is not readily accepted. But what has happened over the years from 2000 onwards is that the Balol Santhal project of India and Suplacu the Barkau project of Romania have brought this ISC process back into focus. How it has brought into focus, you will see in subsequent slides. So this is Suplacu the Barkau in Romania. It has been a great motivator for me and for the others who have been implementing this process in Balol and Santhal, because it is going on for more than 50 to 60 years, and recovery factor that time, yeah, this slide is very old. This slide is of 2009-10. So today recovery factor has gone to 55% to 60%. But this field is very shallow, around 200 meters, very cold reservoirs, 25 degrees centigrade, and very viscous oil. But combustion is going on since last 6 years, and they're pretty successful in this. You can read that paper 100346 for better understanding of what is going on in Suplacu de Barkau in Romania. It had been a great motivator. So how to screen the reservoirs? Screening the reservoirs for applicability of this in-situ combustion. Some of the key equipments are ARC, pressure differential scanning calorimeter, as well as RAM temperature oxidation, RTO. These days, RTO is very popular, which is available in University of Calgary in Canada, and it will be coming very soon in IRSC to NGC, where you can carry out, where you can screen any oil reservoir for the applicability of air injection process in situ combustion, be it heavy oil, be it medium gravity oil, be it a light oil. I don't know how to show you this. Can I try with an animation? Can you see this tube? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
We can see this.
Can you see this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So this is we are moving to the laboratory. Huh? Those of you who have been to IRS will remember of seeing this sort of setup. It's a long 2-meter long pressure chamber. Inside it houses the combustion tube. Can you see now? Can you see this change? Yes or no, quickly? Huh?
Sir, no, sir.
You are not seeing the change, huh?
Yes, sir. We are not able to see the change, sir.
No, sir, we can't see that.
अब क्या करें बोलो हम आए, and this is the issue. क्या करेंगे हम, बोलिए हम. I don't know what you do. This sort of thing is there. It's a very, it's an issue. I don't like. Oof. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
So
Now
this is the combustion tube. You can see it is, when oil migration takes place, it's called restored state technique, vacuum is created, the pores are taken from the field, it is all the oil is removed, then it is dried, then packed in this vertical tube, 2-meter long tube, 100 centimeter diameter, and then what is happening, vacuum is created, then it is saturated with reservoir brine, then that brine is displaced by the reservoir oil at that pressure and temperature, thus creating a restored state technique of saturating the reservoir, like what had happened during migration of oil in the reservoir in million years ago. But this is the setup where injection end is at the top. Injection end is at the top, and this is the production end. So when air is injected and it is ignited at the injection end, the front moves down from top to bottom, and you get, and these are the thermocouples. To track the front, there are 12 thermocouples equally spaced. So you get a temperature display, how the front is moving. So, and the produced fluids come into the separator system, like in oil field, high pressure separator. Gas comes out, goes into the chromatograph for evidence of carbon dioxide, for determining the percentage of carbon dioxide, oxides of carbon present in the flue gas, and the volume of flue gas flowing out, which directly reflects the volume of air injected. So here you have an air injection system, you have a production system, the gas composition through chromatograph, and a flow meter. And here are the temperature display. You can calculate from here the velocity of the front moving down. You can see the stability of the front. From this process, the most important thing is the engineering parameters which are evaluated from this, because we cannot go to the field and test the process unless it succeeds here in the laboratory. Then only people move to the next step of simulation or going into the field. But from here, laboratory evaluation establishes the creation, sustenance, and the propagation of high temperature oxidation front. It generates the engineering parameters for designing of field operation. It also manifests in terms of changes of the reservoir fluids with time, as you may see in the reservoir when a field project is implemented. See, this is the difference. In the initial portion in the laboratory, when a tube is packed, the bottom portion is the oil saturated reservoir, and after the high temperature front moves ahead, nothing is left behind. Everything is pushed out. So this clearly shows the high displacement efficiency of in-situ combustion process. So you can see now, you can see this slide.
Yes, sir.
So this is with time, when the front is propagated in the tube, how the oil viscosity changes with time, and how the acid number changes. See here, oil viscosity initially was around 700 centipoise, until half of the project, nothing changes. But subsequently, oil viscosity goes down, and it goes to a level of 1 centipoise when the front is very close to the production end, whereas acid number also shows a increasing number. Now this viscosity trend actually is because of heat. Increased temperature in the reservoir creates a decrease of oil viscosity. You may know why you are not seeing it in the beginning is because of blending of the lighter oil with the native oil. So you don't see this. But when the front is very close to that of the production well, you see this happening. So specific gravity also you can see from 0.95 to 0.88. That means there is a upgradation of oil. There is this in-situ combustion process upgrades the oil. It's like a moving refinery inside the reservoir. Thermal cracking, as I have told you, it's taking place. So what is happening? The heavier ends get deposited out into the sand grains, and the lighter fractions move out. And these are the evidence of the lighter fractions. Means oil is getting upgraded, and recovery therefore goes up very high, close to 90-95%. The most important curve is this oxygen, general effect of temperature on oxygen uptake rate. If y-axis is the oxygen uptake rate and x-axis is the temperature, and if you subject a heavy oil in an inert atmosphere and increase the temperature from the reservoir temperature to 800 degrees C, you will see this sort of curve getting generated. This is very common. You can generate in PDSC, pressure differential scanning calorimeter. You can generate this in accelerating rate calorimeter, or you can ramped pressure RTO also you can generate. So these two hills which you see in this are, one is the low temperature region and the other is the high temperature region. The reactions when oxygen is added in a heavy oil and in an inert in increasing temperature regime, what happens between 200 to 300 degrees C, when oxygen reacts with the heavier oil, it goes into the chain of molecules. It doesn't cut off the chain. It gets, the oxygen gets added into the chain and forms organic acids. There's a very dangerous area for in-situ combustion process. So if insufficient oxygen is injected in a reservoir and in the temperature between 200 to 350. So here you will
Sir.
have all, please. Any question?
Sir, I think your screen yes, sir, I think your screen has frozen. Currently we're seeing a graph of acid number versus time. Now we can see the next one.
This one. You can see now.
So now we are seeing, I'm seeing acid number versus time.
Can you see this?
Yes, sir, I can see this. Laboratory findings of oil specific gravity versus time.
So this is how specific gravity. This is evidence of in-situ combustion in upgrading the oil in the reservoir. This is the clear-cut evidence. This is a laboratory. In the field, you may not see this happening because it gets blended with the other unswept oil. So in a long displacement process, injector and producers are far apart. You don't see this evidence. You see it in the laboratory because they are only 2 meters long tube. So in the field, this is 500 meters long. So you don't see this. But inside the reservoir, it's like a moving refinery. You see at one end, really upgradation of oil. But this is, you can see this. And this is a very big problem with this online presentation, I believe. You don't really see the animation part, or can you see this now? You can see this? No.
Sir, we are seeing
So-
the rate of ignition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this
No,
you
we
are
don't see the
seeing
animation.
this curve, you are seeing two hills,
Yes, sir.
small hill and a big hill.
Yes, sir.
So this is the most important, I would say, for you in a general term, layman's term, the most important manifestation of oxygen uptake rate with increasing temperature. In the field, we have to be very careful of this scenario. If you give me any heavy oil, when I subject that heavy oil in the presence of oxygen air and increasing temperature, I will, at the outlet end, if I measure the concentration of oxygen in the air, I will see a curve like this developing. So between 300 to 350, it is oxygen addition reactions. It is not complete combustion. No heat is liberated in this small hill portion. But the reactions go through a valley and enters the Mount Everest, the big peak. Here, entire complete combustion takes place. Here, the temperature reaches to 600 degrees C. In this portion, all the oxygen breaks the chain of molecule of hydrocarbon into carbon dioxide and water. When you see HX plus oxygen, complete combustion is CO2 and H2O. So in this portion, all the chains are broken. This is called bond scission reaction. And all entire operation in this region is desirable in the field. So you have to maintain sufficient quantity of air in the injection during field operation. and you have to maintain bond scission reactions in the field. How to know that? You will know that because carbon dioxide will come out. In the smaller peak, no carbon dioxide is generated because it is incomplete combustion. Oxygen is getting absorbed into the chain. It is not breaking the chain. So no carbon dioxide, no heat, only small amount of heat is liberated, and mostly organic compounds are formed which are detrimental for the displacement of oil and enhancement of recovery. So the high peak is the most desirable thing in heavy oil. So for that, you have to be very careful in selecting your ignition process, which is to the left of the slide, which ignition process you'd like to see, such that the temperature in the well starts very high at around 600 degrees C. So this is a very important curve which ensures a success of in-situ combustion process. So I'm not showing you these things because you are not able to appreciate the animations. So I will skip it, okay? You better take it from your department, this presentation, and because I can send it to you through email because it's very difficult to communicate such heavy presentation. But these are all available in your department. You can see that. Because see now how to show you here, I don't know. When you inject air continuously into a well, oil well, high temperature oxidation, depending on the reservoir temperature, will be automatically created after certain time delay. How many of you have seen the fire in the coal mines? Have you ever heard of coal mine fire? You are all from Dhanbad, but have you ever heard of coal mine fire?
Yes, sir. We have heard
Why it
about
takes
this.
place? कोई जानबूझ के तो आग नहीं लगाता है ना?
No, sir.
इसलिए होता है.
Sir, actually, I don't have any
That
idea
is
about
called-
this. Like, why it
It's
is
called
taking place.
spontaneous combustion.
Spontaneous, yes, sir.
You keep a very volatile matter in the sun, and with time, depending on its ignition point, depending on the ignition point of that matter and the amount of heat loss which is taking place, it will ignite. The coal mines will, with time, oxygen getting added to the chain of molecules, heat is liberated, this can be simulated and can be seen in a simulator. You know how long it takes to really ignite. In a hot reservoir like ours in Mehsana, 70 degrees C reservoir, in 3 to 5 days, ignition of 600 degrees C front is created. You can see that. 700 degrees C is created. On its own, if I go on injecting air, 5 days it will go on, and you can see here those portion where the front is created, but it is at some distance away from the wellbore. You can see this slide. Bhai, batao, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Because
the
you see
temperature
now,
profile.
when this is the injection end, and this is if I measure the temperature from the injection end to the production end in a field, this is a very hypothetical case. This is based on simulation. I'm trying to tell you. Air, 10,000 cubic meter of air is being injected in a reservoir of 70 degrees C. Within the first day, the temperature will be almost like this line. On the third day, you can see some increase. Fifth day, some more increase. Seventh day, increase. Eighth and ninth day, boom. You get a high temperature zone created around 5 feet away from the wellbore, a meter away from the wellbore. This is the temperature profile during ignition, spontaneous ignition. Okay. Now, how if you measure oxygen at the outlet end, you are injecting air at 10,000 cubic meter per day, and from the injection end to the production end. On the first day, no change almost. 21% and 20.5%. But with time, you see on the 9th day when the front is created, the entire oxygen is just consumed. So that shows the effectiveness of spontaneous ignition. Now, when spontaneous ignition is not considered, artificial ignitions are considered. Artificially the reservoir is heated up with a subject like gas burner, which raises the temperature of the whaleboat to around 400 degrees C. Remember that curve, that small peak and the big mountain and the small mountain. The Bond-Sisson reactions takes place from 400 degrees C to 800 degrees C. So this burner raises the whaleboat temperature to around 400 degrees C. We cannot go more than 400 to protect the casing of the well, but it is good enough. When air comes in contact at 400 degrees C, immediately front is created at the whaleboat and gets propagated outside. Okay, so this is artificial ignition. So this is the evidence when in the field. How do you know combustion has taken place? Your management goes on asking this question when air injection is started. So watch out in the production wells, the gas composition. So nitrogen immediately from injection, this is a real case of around a distance of 150 meters between injector and producer. You can see nitrogen coming up so early, very quickly building up, because nitrogen is inert. It doesn't take part in the reaction. This is an indication of communication of injector to producer. So quickly it builds up to 79%, which is present in the air. And oxygen, there is no oxygen in the production well because all the oxygen is consumed in the front, high temperature front. But why the carbon dioxide takes such a long time to come up? Only because it is highly soluble in oil and water. So till the path through which the flue gases are traveling gets saturated with carbon dioxide, you won't see any evidence in the production well. So it's very low in the production well. But slowly and slowly it builds up to the stoichiometric level of 15 to 16%. This confirms that combustion has set in. And second, this is an indirect way of knowing, but the direct way is measuring temperature in temperature observation wells. In the field, usually between injector and production well, just like the thermocouples you have placed in the tube in the laboratory, you have bunch of thermocouples or fiber optics in an instrument well. We call it instrument well in the field to measure the temperature every feet of the reservoir from top to the bottom. You can see the beautiful front developing inside the reservoir at a particular instant. That tells you, along with this gas composition, well, yes, truly combustion has set in into the reservoir and air injection is creating a Bond-Sisson reaction. That means reaction is proceeding in that bigger peak, bigger mountain, rather than getting stuck up in that negative temperature region of that valley or in the small peak. So let's go to the field and see what's happening there. So entire field in laboratory got over by 1980s, and by 1990, the first field operation came up in a field called Balol, which you can see in purple color in the south of Balol field. It was designed based on analytical models that done by Nelson, Maclean, and nitrogen injection and artificial ignition. Artificial ignition, the same gas burner was used to really increase the wellbore temperature to around 400 degrees C to create the front right at the word core of air injection. So there are 4 fields which are contiguous in nature. They are water active water drive support from the east, and there is a Mehsana host in the west, which are the 2 barriers in the east and west. But all these fields have no geological barriers. They are having geographical barriers. Only the oil viscosity is changing from south in North Kari and Santal from 50 centipoise to 2000 centipoise in the north of Lanua. So in Santal you have 50 to 100, in Balol you have 100 to 1500, and Lanua from 1500 to 2000 plus. So oil viscosity is changing from south to north as we are moving ahead. So a small area of pilot was tested here of 5.5 acre, one injector, 4 producers, and 1 temperature observation well was drilled and produced. But you can see here what happened. The 4 wells, the 4 production wells, including the injector, not the temperature observation well, all these 5 wells were put on production before pilot started in 1990. So it was an inverted 5-spot, 1 injector, 4 producers, and 1 temperature observation well. Very small pilot, very quick results. We don't want to waste time. Nobody wants to waste time for any management to take a decision, take a call, whether we to go ahead or we stop in our journey in this process. So you can see here the decline curve, how the production, all the 4 wells were on production. 5 wells, including the injector, were all on production. And when water cut reached 90%, the process was started. And you can see the increase. Obviously, the picture shows water production came down considerably like a U. You see here? I'm losing track of the pointer here. I don't know. So this clearly demonstrates that this process resulted in reduction in water cut. You can see very clearly. And incremental oil production. Substantial. 5 well production, which was 10 cubic meter per day, from 5 wells went up to 30 plus, and it went sustained. Well, this in between periods, some operational issues came up, so they were in discontinuous. Air injection was stopped because hydrogen sulfide came into the gas stream. We had to prepare ourselves, but this gave confidence to expand the process on semi-commercial and commercial operation. So this was the pilot. You can see very clearly water cut came down to 40%, and for a significant period of time, 2 years. It's no joke. Huh? This is no simulation. This is no laboratory. This is field. So this pilot demonstrated that in the presence of strong aquifer at a depth of 1000 meters, viscosity of 100 to 150 centipoise, oil production can be enhanced significantly. Aquifer can be arrested, and it can be now expanded for commercial operation. One beautiful thing which came out from the temperature observation well was, you can see the temperature distribution at the top of the reservoir before the well failed. It was on the 5th measurement, the entire casing collapsed and the well had to be abandoned. But before that, $1 million information was retrieved from temperature observation well. And you can see at the top of the reservoir temperature more than 350 degrees C. Means in between temperature could not be tracked. The entire well failed. So all indicated that Bonson reaction was proceeding in the reservoir. And one beautiful thing is that you can see the blue path when that injector well was drilled, maybe a month before, 2 months before the process start. Aquifer water encroachment zone was indicated by reduced oil saturation area. But when the process started, air injection started, we were apprehensive that the front can go through the high permeability zone of that less oil saturated blue area. But no, it went up into the top of the reservoir, also showing that gravity forms a very strong control on the process. So air is light, so it will try to occupy the top part of the reservoir. So gravity forces was demonstrated by this process. and that became our strength. So 1997 to 2001, entire Balol field, which you can see to your right, was commercialized. The pilot was here in the south. You can see the small area, an entire thing. By 97, this portion was started. And by 2000, the entire thing started with up deep line drive. Now, this is another form. There can be pattern system, there can be line drive system, but the pilot demonstrated that gravity is a very strong force, which is dominant in this pilot testing. So we placed all the injectors at the top of the reservoirs, such that gravity now controls the process in its future course of movement. So you can see it becomes easy to control. Heterogeneity gets nullified to a great extent. Less of flue gas handling, because now all the flue gases will be almost stored at the crest of the reservoir, and less will be handled by the operators in the town door. Then, all the time air injection can get stopped sometimes due to operational reasons, power failures, power shutdowns. So there are every possibilities of resaturation of sweat zones, and that also gets mitigated if you are operating the process from top. So additional envisaged recovery was around 36% over the primary in this. So it was around 50% was the envisaged total recovery that would be retrieved after 25 years. How it happened, you see here now. See, this is total Balol fields, and here the commercialization took place. You can see how with air injection we got another almost peak. This is the primary decline. From 900 cubic meters per day, production came down to 400 cubic meters when the commercialization took place, and the production again increased to 700 tons per day. And the water cut got reduced from 80 to 50%. So commercial was a success. So I want to tell you one thing from here. After laboratory, the pilot testing, and then the commercialization, Balol clearly demonstrated that in-situ combustion was not an archaic process. It was like Jack Nicholson's later on society people realizing that, well, he is a great personality, he's good to the mankind and everything. And like this, it is enhancing India's energy availability. It needs courage, it needs conviction, it needs commitment to invest and be self-reliant on technology. And we need oil. Our country needs oil. And so you can see, you have no second doubt about this curve. I don't think anybody will have a second doubt on this curve that this process is not yielding, is good for nothing. It has demonstrated its strength, manifestation in reducing significant water cut by almost, 60% drop, and enhancement of oil production rate from 300 to 800 cubic meters per day. And I want to tell you one more thing here. Watch out for my paper in SPE IIT in the coming 2 months. This is based on my experiences on in-situ combustion, the myths and facts, and that is coming up it's already approved, it's coming up for publication in the coming 2 months, either in September, in October, in SPE IIT and RE. So peer approved. So recovery here today is around 55% plus, and it gradually decreases. These are compartments of impermeable faults, permeability barriers all across the field. And the oil here is highly viscous, around 2000 centipoise. Here the recovery is lowest, around 15%. But here the strategy is different than here. Here there is a long distance displacement going on because there is significant mobility of oil, and average recovery factor from here to here is 40%. Significant recovery has taken place. And here short distance displacement is in vogue with a horizontal well and injector spaced close by. So enhancement of recovery, enhancement of production, See, reduction of aquifer, strength in arresting the aquifer encroachment, all points to the strength of this process. So when you plot a, what do you call it, a cross plot of air rate with oil rate, you will see a straight line, almost a linear relationship, which tells you of the optimized air injection rate. As we went on increasing air injection rate, oil production rate increased. This is actual information of the field. And here there is cluster of information. That means based on the completion strategy of the field, it could not take in more air. So this was the peak optimized air injection, which the field could survive. So around 0.5 to 0.6 cubic meter per day, million standard cubic meter per day. So this tells you the journey of air, tells you the beauty of in-situ combustion process. It's like more you burn, more you displace, more oil you get. More air you are injecting means more volume you are sweeping. So more oil is getting displaced out and more oil is getting captured by the producer. And this curve is a clear-cut evidence of it. See the aquifer. Now, before initiation of the process, the entire field is shown to the left. The first Balol field, where air injection is nil. So here the field is almost blue in color, high water cut. You can see at the legend below. It's almost 90% plus. But as air injection progressed from to 500,000 cubic meter, the entire field is turning green. That means the aquifer which is to the east is getting arrested. So this is the strength of it. The arrest of edge water encroachment. Why it is happening like that? There has to be some physics part. Why this is happening? Try to understand it by having a relationship of the injected volume and the produced volume. It's all material balance, I believe so. It's playing a very big role in your oil fields, in the reservoir engineering. So here when we see 1:1 almost voidage replacement ratio, the aquifer gets arrested. And that became very true to understand, in fact, when we see under the reservoir condition, the produced and the injected volume, injected air volume under reservoir condition, and the produced volume of oil, water, and the flue gases, and they are almost 1:1. So that means voidage replacement ratio is 1. So your aquifer gets arrested. And one more thing is, beautiful thing is, you can see at the bottom, out of air injected 14 million cubic meter, gas produced was 11 million cubic meter. And there was 3 million cubic meter still occupying inside the reservoir, like a gas cap. So it forms a sort of a secondary gas cap. So that means combination drive. So at this instant, when voidage replacement ratio is 1, at that instant, the water drive mechanism is getting altered. From a water drive reservoir, it is getting driven to a crustal air drive. So that means this gas cap is playing a very big role in the top of the reservoir, which gravity again comes into the picture. About the operational expenses, at that instant, not today, please, God's sake, don't take it today. That was around $16 a barrel, and electrical, almost 30% was energy cost of running the compressors, and manpower 22%. Obviously, if in PSUs it is man intensive, so it formed 22%, well servicing 20%, but running the compressor was around 1/3 of the $16 per barrel. Almost $5 per barrel cost was on running the air compressors. These are huge air compressors. You have to inject 1 million standard cubic meter of air inside the reservoirs. But these numbers, please be careful. This is not of today. It has doubled up almost. It not doubled up. It is almost around $15 to $20 a barrel today. the operating. It has not increased much because electrical power cost has not gone through a significant change. So what are the opportunities you have seen today? You have seen in-situ combustion has the strength in increasing production and recovery from mobile heavy oil reservoirs. It can arrest edge water. In dipping reservoirs, that's the best way to do. Take assistance of gravity. It will nullify the heterogeneity. And if we can integrate horizontal wells, we can benefit the gravity drainage. We can integrate gravity drainage into the mechanism, and it becomes a very easy to control process. Well completion is one area which is a major anxieties. It poses the anxieties because I don't know, you won't see this, you won't see. Let's go ahead. So how to control completion issues? Completion issues are injector well completion, isolation of casing tubing annulus for rust-free, for corrosion-free environment. We're using special metallurgy type tubular. This is the one area which you need to be very careful of in this entire process. Each well, you need a well completion which has to honor this process. And you have to have the casing policy right. You have to have the cementation policy right. And you have to use your metallurgy right. Otherwise, you will land in a serious issue. Anxieties are also there in the personnel who are operating some negative mindset, disaster mentality. I think you should depend on the main reservoir, which is between your 2 years, and that removes all the anxieties. Lack of understanding and knowledge is the biggest anxieties of all while operating this in-situ combustion. That is why it is always advisable, those who are running in the laboratory, working in the laboratory, very much aware of the process manifestation, should go to the field and participate in field operation. So summary, air injection is an effective method of recovering oil from conventional and heavy oil reservoirs. There are a large number of reservoirs that are ideal candidates, and significant oil production can be achieved, recovery can be enhanced, and existing infrastructure life can be extended. Compression and injection of air is not a rocket science. It is a proven, specialized technology. And successful air injection requires good engineering based on informed understanding of the process. This is very important. High temperature ignition, monitoring, and re-engineering and optimum air are very important for the success of the project. Now, what we have seen over the years, that as personal experience in in-situ combustion diffused to the industry's technical position, success with air injection will prove beneficial to the industry as a whole. This is a reality which is facing the entire industry. So this is an acknowledgement for this is otherwise I would not been able to become a SPE distinguished lecturer. It's OHS's permission to present the findings. In-Situ Combustion Research Group of University of Calgary and SPE for extending the invitation to be part of distinguished lecturer program. And that's all. Thank you for your attention. And you can ask questions if you want. Please go ahead. Hope I am able to convey to you. This is an extremely complicated subject, and unless you see the animations, you won't be able to appreciate the process. So this is where it is. I couldn't show you any animation, but somehow without animation, hope you have seen the performance curves. Yes or no?
Yes,
Any
sir.
questions?
Yes, sir. I had a few questions. I was just wondering, what is the API of the oil that you are trying to recover?
Oh, it can be. I'm working for Colombia at the moment with 8-degree API. Are you asking API or viscosity?
Yes, API. Yes.
So I am at this moment from 8 to 45.
Okay. And the formation is like the Kalol formation, right? It's a K8, K9.
No. It's all plastic reservoirs, sandstone reservoirs.
Okay. And one question about the burner that you put in the wellbore. do you remove it after some time, or do you just keep it for the entire lifetime of the reservoir?
Which one?
The burner that you put to start the
Oh,
fire.
usually when the wet starts, it is taken out
Okay,
after 3 months.
3 months. And finally, one more question: the water cut decreases after some time because the oil saturation increases. Is that's why the water cut?
Yes. You got the message. I didn't tell you. Actually, there are many mechanisms associated to the explanation of reduced water production. VRR1 is one. VRR1, voidage replacement ratio. Have you heard of the term VRR?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Excellent. So VRR1 is everybody acknowledges that when material balance, when the produced fluid matches the volume of injected fluids at the reservoir condition, pressure, there is no imbalance in pressure, there is no sink created inside the reservoir. So the aquifer gets stalled. So there is no water encroachment. But what about the water in the reservoir? What is happening? The oil that is displaced out. This is a very important phenomena. If you give a very close look at the performance in the pink color which was shown, I'll tell you later on. So that's the phenomenon where relative permeabilities walk in. The oil bank which is moving ahead resaturates the reservoir. So increased oil saturation is taking place. So it reduces the KRW. The relative permeability to water goes down due to increased SO and reduced SW, and hence the water cut shows a declining trend. Any more?
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all from me.
Sir, how are we controlling heat flow in the reservoir as there is a chance of burning the oil before being displaced?
Actually, that is, do you think that paraffin gets burnt or the paraffin vapor in a candle? If I try to burn something in a confined space, inside the pores, will there be a fire or will there be a high temperature oxidation? You have to visualize that one. Some oxidation is going on in the open, like the fire in the coal, in the Jharia fire or in Dhanbad, that's in atmospheric condition. Whereas here something is happening at 100 atmosphere pressure confined to a very small pore. So that means when that cracking phenomena is taking place, when I'm heating, when I'm creating a high temperature near the wellbore, what is happening? In oxygen supply is getting cut off at the front. So nitrogen, in the presence of nitrogen, entire oil ahead is getting heated up. So thermal cracking is very pronounced. So what is happening? The lighter fractions move out, like in refinery fractional tower, and the heavier end gets deposited, that black stuff which you saw on the sand grain surfaces. So that burns, that sustains the high temperature oxygen, not the lighter fractions. Lighter fractions are invaluable and they move ahead along with nitrogen, steam, and everything ahead. And they resaturate the reservoir ahead of the front. So there is no question of burning. We are consuming that fuel around 5% of the oil saturation. Yeah, you are right. We are burning reserves to higher oil recovery. But you see the extent, we are consuming 5% of the oil saturation in terms of coke, not in the lighter fractions. The invaluable sources which has no value, which are insignificant, are consumed to enhance oil production and higher recovery. Am I clear?
Yes.
Am I clear?
Yes, sir. So why has the price increased instead of price increased instead of decreasing? Is it cost efficient if the price is high?
Which price? Which price you mean?
So, oil price.
So the
Oh, that
price.
is all
So
geopolitical.
price
Oh,
that goes per
that,
barrel.
that don't
Like you mentioned, $16 per barrel.
oh, that is operating cost. Operating cost. There is operating
Yes.
expenditure, which was in 2009-10. Today it has increased from $16 to $20 a barrel. But because electricity cost is same. That's for running this project. You see, operating expenditure is what? You see that pie chart. 30% is energy cost of running the air compressors. Is running the air compressors, manpower cost, और क्या है और क्या है और क्या ऑयल ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंडिचर में और क्या आता है कुछ नहीं आता है major is for 30 to 40% energy of running the air compressors. But since the air oil ratio is so favorable in these projects, input to output energy balance, so basically it has increased from अगर $10 to $15 10 साल पहले था अभी now it is $15 to $20 a barrel with some increase of the energy cost, power cost in industrial power cost. But you know, if you see from country to country, this will differ because energy cost is different from different countries. Somewhere the residential electrical units are different than the industrial ones, but here in our country we have different industrial rates and the residential rates are different in the electrical charges. So this is it's not significant change in operating expenditure. And with time, what happens, you know, beauty. Almost today we are talking to you, we are completing 25 years of operation. Lot of optimization has taken place. So cost has also been optimized. And that's why we don't see significant increase in cost. Today we are 25 years, man. Today it is August middle and 15th September we started the process 1997. So it's a very eventful date we are talking of. And in these 25 years, serious re-engineering and optimization has taken place. So the cost has also been optimized. The chemicals, the compressors, design, the entire process, injectors cost, running cost, all has been optimized. So the cost is same. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
और question?
Yes, sir.
बोलिए.
So I think it's all cleared up. We have come to end our session. Thank you, sir, for this informative lecturer program.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you, sir.
कोई question तो नहीं है ना? No more questions?
No, sir.
Nice, sir.
And take the presentation from your department. Either Mr. Upadhyay has it or your head of the department has it. Whoever has it. Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, sir.